Alright, welcome back to the Golden League to round 3, and we've got Beasty versus RecoN here. So we're here on Basin, with Beasty in the yellow trunks as Abbasid, up against RecoN here in the blue on Marley. So RecoN's got a pretty formidable Marley. He's been using it pretty heavily so far in the tournament of the games that I've watched. But we'll have to see how he goes up against one of the titans of the game. RecoN himself, an extremely good player as well. But Beasty, I think his track record speaks for itself. But yeah, we got pretty close to top of the table clash here between these two. So Beasty doesn't look to be doing too much out of the ordinary here. Well, he's actually going for the sheep first rather than going straight on the mill. And this house sets him up so that he can both mill and lumber camp off it without having to build any more houses to get them working towards his golden age score, which could be quite useful here, getting that bonus gathering rate to make up for the fact that RecoN's going to be able to trickle a little bit of free gold here, plenty to get him to age 2 without having to worry about gathering any gold at all early on himself with his villagers. Just be able to distance gather a bit of wood. It's not really all that long distance anyway around the starting town center to be able to get his wood gathering going. So it was Basin, a map I haven't really had the luxury of playing much of myself. One of the newer maps. So there's not a huge amount of wood available to our players, really. You know, you've only got sort of 2 big clumps of trees here. Most of it seems to be locked up in the outer edges of the map here. Beasty has got another couple of clumps over here, and RecoN's got one over the back here. One sort of a little off from the rest of that top patch as well. But yeah, I think map control can be very crucial in this map. An early lead can translate into a lost game. I mean, into a one game, sorry, pretty quickly if you're able to capitalize and cut your opponent off from outlying resources. Gold as well, also a little bit limited. Although I suppose if Beasty can town center up over here, it makes it easy to then gather this to then town center up elsewhere, like over here or over here. So there's an odd number of sacred sites, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 relics as well. Odd number of relics, and 8 potential gold trickles there for both players. Beasty just going eco wing, so he's probably going fertile crescent, and for some sort of 3 town center opening, you can often go for that, or trade wing for a real boomy eco sort of opening. Don't often see military or culture wing get selected until age 3, but then they're typically one of those two is the age 3 choice. Now culture wing, giving you access to preservation and knowledge, very useful because all your technologies that you can research end up, except for your landmark wing text there, end up being a lot cheaper. So that's a good sell for culture wing for age 3. While military wing, obviously you got some nice damage bonuses and health bonuses to your units there. Eco wing, obviously cheaper eco buildings and cheaper town centers here. So RecoN going for a bit of a tried and true opening for himself here. Actually going to get a barracks alongside the stable. I've seen him open double stables a bit, or one stables into, a later second stables and then other production a bit so far. Beasty getting an early barracks, be wanting to defend against the warrior scouts, because this will be a nice damage boost over the regular scouts, available only to the Marlians players. Abbasid, very formidable spearman, they can actually take a Civ exclusive tech to give them extra attack range. Now on melee, that, you know, it sounds a bit weird. How can they have range? But it just means that they're able to actually, you know, attack like a spearman and stab them from that little bit further away than other melee. RecoN's actually cancelled the barracks there. Oh, okay. Interesting. He must have done that in response to maybe seeing or suspecting Beasty going for an early barracks. Man's Quarry just generating gold, adding some more houses around his gold mine. And he's got some warrior scouts on patrol here, but Beasty's not left himself exposed at all here. So Beasty will be able to go for that nice second town centre very quickly. It's not going to cost him 400 wood and 350 stone like it normally would, because he's taken that fertile crescent upgrade, you know, and it'll pay itself back just off the one town centre alone. But every house and drop-off building here on, he also saves another 13 wood, and he'll potentially go for 3 town centres here. In fact, I think 3 TC Abbasid has become a lot more common since the rework from fresh foodstuffs to fertile crescent, because fresh foodstuffs used to pay itself back of going 2 TC and then just, you know, just the game dragging out. So RecoN going for double market here. Well, he's already got a third over in the far corner. This is probably a style RecoN's really comfortable with, I think, because, you know, boom builds and AOEO in particular as well, I think you'll often play a lot around multiple markets. And he was one of the players that was really behind making use of macro market Mongols early on. Like, while everyone else was trying to really play them quite hard and fast with the towering, he was one of the people that really, I think, opted to often play the more macro style. Even if they did tower initially, going for the landmark that would allow for cheaper caravans, and then, you know, building up a big macro boom. I mean, a big eco boom for himself behind that. Beasty, just a really quick and skilled player himself as well. Often plays nice middle of the road builds that give himself the opportunity to, you know, never fall behind and respond as best he can regardless of the situation. Not one for potentially unorthodox play, I don't think. Not to say RecoN's necessarily cheesy, but I think he just tends to err a bit more on the side of either particularly greedy or particularly aggressive builds at different times, relative to someone like Beasty as such. So Beasty already starting to chip away at caravans, the traders. He's already picked off one, and RecoN's forced to try and wall this in as quick as he can here. But in saying that, RecoN's already pulled ahead in score. He's up in eco population already, so realistically I think RecoN's managed to make this start to pay for himself. He's not really fallen behind in military population just yet. But bearing in mind Mali with warrior scouts, they're not quite a fully fledged cavalry unit. But this is smart for Beasty, chopping away through here. He's actually going to try and prevent RecoN from actually making use of this outpost at all. So very smart of him to cut down the tree, start walling this in himself, and force RecoN to take an engagement right on top of this market line before things are really settled down for him. And Spears versus Warrior Scouts is a bit of a tough fight. RecoN having to fit in some Musafati warriors, a little bit like a Man-at-Arms, but they don't have that heavy armor. They should trade positively against Spears, but by nowhere near as strongly as Man-at-Arms will. It's a bit of an awkward spot RecoN finds himself in now, because he's invested so heavily into the 3 markets He's going to have to rely on making sure he can keep everything safe here. He's going to try and put a market here. He needs to be able to defend this. It looks like that villager is going to go down. The market's going to end up cancelled. So he may even have to look at opting to put it here. Or even try and put one over here. Although that could be very risky because then he's really building towards Beasty's side of the map. But with mostly spears, this could be a hard fight for Beasty to actually take against mostly Musafati warriors here for RecoN. While he's trying to focus down the trader, it also pulls away his melee army attention from the enemy melee. RecoN continuing to stream traders through because I've actually personally talked to RecoN about it, and he honestly reckons if he can get one round trip off with the traders, it's worth it. And I don't think he's necessarily the only high-level player that thinks that way about traders in this situation. So even if he is dropping traders here, as long as they manage to make that round trip, make that 150 gold, ultimately they've paid for themselves. Anything beyond that is a bonus, because realistically it's cheaper to get a market than it is a town center, even a reduced cost Abbasid town center. So RecoN actually repelling Beasty here through all this, in spite of the tower, in spite of chopping through the wall off, and in spite of interrupting the oh shit emergency market. It looks like RecoN manages to hold on to this trading here, and he can actually just look at cancelling that market if he wants to throw up another production building. But at the same time, Beasty now trying to raid the market line from the other end while RecoN's distracted defending the top side, and this might actually work out a bit better for Beasty because now he's getting the traders before they've actually picked up their gold, or as they've just picked up their gold. So he will get another bunch of traders, and now RecoN's eco population is dipping behind Beasty's because Beasty up to 3 town center, RecoN just on the 1, and had been relying on the triple market. And in fact, he's gone up to 4 markets. He decided to finish it. This is peak Age of Mythology, Age of Empires online player mentality. A 4th market, just anywhere? Fucking, I'll do it. RecoN seemingly stabilized now. He's down by a bit of eco pop, up in terms of army pop relative to Beasty. Beasty, in the meanwhile, really bumped up his archery range count here, going up to 4 of them in total. Because the beauty of playing into Mali, while Musafati warriors are really strong against man-at-arms and trade better against knights than man-at-arms do, they're actually much weaker against archers than, you know, man-at-arms or another Age 2 heavy unit would be, because they are only a light unit themselves. They're designed to be like a light assassin. So it's sort of going to force RecoN to have to get his own jab throwers here, which aren't going to be as cheap, as easy to field as the archers in high numbers, or his infantry, his mix of, yeah, Donso, Musafati, and he's adding some cavalry now as well, getting some Sofa, trying to wall himself in. Beasty switching things back up, going towards that top side of the market line once again. Walled off from the bottom side, but top side willing to try and get some rams here, force RecoN to take an engagement. Military population's very even, but Beasty starting to pull ahead on that eco pop at the moment. This is ultimately, I think it's ending up a nice fight for RecoN because Beasty's running out of a front line here. Ultimately is going RecoN's way, but the problem is he's actually got a lot of that infantry advantage actually focusing on the ram instead of just coming to chase straight away. And just having like a single spearman focusing that down. Yeah, so that one Mustafati could be, you know, working away at the ram while everything else just, you know, runs down all the Beastie's stuff at the moment. But RecoN pulling ahead on score despite a eco disadvantage at the moment. Well, an eco pop disadvantage as such. I think per pop, traders are a little bit more efficient ultimately. They are a more expensive economy unit to build, so you would think that they would be a more pop efficient unit, and I believe they are. I think if I asked RecoN, he'd say, man, you don't even need to ask that, of course they are. But Beasty having a retreat now with his bowman ball. Starting to lag behind RecoN in terms of the military population, but his eco pop is actually starting to take off over RecoN's. Obviously with 3 town centers to 1, unless RecoN's constantly producing 2 caravans alongside his villages. Actually, I'd say 3 considering the train time difference. He's going to slip behind in that regard. But in terms of the actual economic difference, I think it's probably more like roughly a 10 gap rather than a 20 gap. It's probably the way to actually look at it. Ultimately, RecoN looks as though he's locked down the market line. He's eager to keep his army here so he can keep it defended. It's a bit of a... Ooh, I was going to say a bit of a break in play, but Beasty's actually trying to work away at this palisade. Just going to mostly let that spearman go and bring the horseman back, knowing he's at least forced RecoN to pull things across to this left side. Then, because he's trying to camp that right side as well, it actually leaves a bit of a gap here in the center of the base to try and work 1 or 2 of these traders down, or even snatch a handful of villages here. And bearing in mind, RecoN's only got single town center ville production at the moment, so while the traders might be more efficient in terms of the resource value in just gold, RecoN's starting to bank up more gold than he might actually need, and struggling a little bit for the wood that he needs to produce the Age 2 army at the moment. RecoN might be looking to go Age 3 soon, considering he's got plenty of gold. And both our players starting to get to that stage where they'd be looking for Age 3, I think. In fact, Beasties is on the way. He's got his military wing. He can start getting some really nice upgrades with that. Maybe looking to take some more decisive fights here. RecoN actually up in terms of military size at the moment. And for Ember Garrison is on the way. It's going to be a little bit later than Beastie's age up here. Both our players walling a little bit, and Beastie playing 3 TC. It's a pretty macro-y, defensive-y sort of game so far. Did RecoN just delete a corner segment to save on resources, but it's still, you know, a full functional wall-off, or... I don't know what happened there, or why it doesn't look like a complete wall-off, but... There's a little gap there too. What is with the bloody walls in this game? So both players hit castle now. Beastie well up in terms of eco pop, but again, with these guys potentially being more efficient, provided RecoN doesn't actually have to sell, or I mean buy other resources with the gold. I don't think that is actually necessarily a good thing for Beastie, because he's, you know, he's locked up that population. Eventually our players going to be maxing out here, and Beastie going to be a lot closer to it. RecoN going to be able to keep adding more and more military production. So he's already up to 80 military pop to Beastie's 60, and Beastie has got 10 population slots left. RecoN's got 35, so... But Beasty, an extremely smart player. I think he's well aware of all this. He's looking to try and actually have a go at those caravans once again. Sorry, traders. They're called caravans in Age of Empires Online and Age of Mythology, so it's hard to not call them that. And particularly in a RecoN game, I'm not gonna bloody correct myself. You can't use Age of Mythology or Age of Empires Online terminology anymore, Sean. But the players are from those games. Well, one of them is. Beasty not quite able to get through that palisade just yet. Actually, considering RecoN's only got this much here. Oh, Beasty ultimately is going to have to retreat because there is more coming out from RecoN, and he's bringing back the main army because if he can kill all these guys, it's a bit of a resource swing RecoN's way. In fact, RecoN's up by kill value by 1,300 resources at the moment, and his army value's up about 5,000 as well. So it's actually looking really nice for RecoN here. In spite of Beasty's aggression and taking out 15 caravans, RecoN's actually in a better spot at the moment. Just needs to get on top of these mangonels. Well, Beasty just needs to try and retreat here until he can get crossbows against the sofa, and then some of his own cavalry to try and deal with this backline of RecoNs at the moment. But Beasty's eco is in a great spot. He's up to that 140 villager pop count, where if you're not playing around an early caravan eco, he's pretty much eco maxed at this point. RecoN's actually pretty much stopped producing any eco here as well, and more or less doubling down on this, but his population advantage is actually really dwindling here. Maybe he's best off retreating a little bit here. It's not this outpost or town center actually helping, but Beasty is fighting close enough to his military production. He's just reinforcing that a little bit quicker. On top of that, it looks like Beasty was attempting to try and cut through RecoN's wood line here, rather than try and send over army units. RecoN forced to bring some army to clean that up. In the meanwhile, Beasty pulling ahead in army population now. RecoN deciding to add some more eco pop. So he is still making caravans. Is he still making villas? Yeah, he is. He just seemed to sit at 100 pop for a little bit then, and I think he might have... 100 eco pop, and I think he might have actually, cut eco production. So, RecoN trying to go for a defensive keep on that gold mine. Well, Beasty going for a bit more of an aggressive one. And Beasty's actually going to need the gold out on the map a lot more than RecoN will, considering he doesn't have any trader economy. And he's got a lot more villages, so he's stripped out a lot more of the map than RecoN has too. Beasty momentarily attacking that wall a little bit longer than he needed to. But the keep is going to finish up here, and this is going to make it very hard for RecoN to stick around, considering he's got the villagers just to garrison into that. Beasty now looking to try and cut through this wall off again. But RecoN, does he actually have enough to take down the keep? I don't think he does. He's got enough to be a pain for Beasty at home or kill any of these reinforcing troops. But he can't really sit around under the keep, and he's going to have to try and get some siege to clean that up for now. And get some defensive, keeps of his own to make sure Beasty can't keep pushing. But Beasty looks like he's going to go for towers and production around here. He hasn't got the stone to get a keep just yet, but at least he can get towers in there. While RecoN's trying to push into him and prevent reinforcing units from being any sort of hassle for him. Oh, in fact, oh, very dirty from Beasty. He just walls everything off. If this wall, oh, he's not going to be able to finish off the wall off, is he? Actually, Beasty does finish off the wall off here, so... No, is there still a gap there? So RecoN will have to try and burn through that. In the meanwhile, he's attempting to pressure Beasty, but it's not working out for him, and Beasty already through to age 4 now. RecoN now retreating. He's a ram to actually break through the keep here. More rams being produced by RecoN. This one actually just sitting back for some reason. He's bringing it forward now, but just get picked off like the other one. Oh, RecoN's got enough to defend here, but Beasty replacing units extremely quickly here. Already in age 4, going to be able to have access to some crazy good upgrades over RecoN. It seems to be staying ahead on population at the moment. Burning oil from the keep, that's going to be very hard for the infantry to stick around underneath it. RecoN's managed to give himself a little gap here, that's all he needs to get through. So his caravan economy is fine, but on the front line of his base, things are not so fine for him at the moment. RecoN's a bit of a way off trying to get to Imperial Age himself, while Beasty is only in pretty much a Castle Age comp himself, but can, you know, he's starting to get, there we go, starting to get his Imperial upgrades. His range, damage, Imperial upgrade as well, and with that, RecoN having to tap out because not able to bring down the keep, and GG.